I am making a bigger difference than I thought, because if you had asked me 3 years ago, I would have just said, I'm just Demi, no one's bothered what I'm doing, but actually I hold a great responsibility and I'm proud that I'm helping.
Black. England.
It's dropped here for Stokes.
I'm proud.
Thank you so much, Demi, for inviting us to your home. It's so lovely here.
Thank you.
We're in Manchester, but this isn't where you grew up.
So I was born in Birmingham, so grew up there till I think about 3, and then moved to South Shields, a little town at the time. And I don't think many people obviously would have heard about it. I think growing up in South Shields was a bit of a culture shock, and being obviously very few mixed race families on the estate, there was a lot of vibing each other out, and then obviously coming from South Shields to Manchester again, I think the older you get, the more you become aware of things and things like that. So even moving to Manchester, I've gone, oh wow, there's a lot of people that look like me here, or do you know what I mean? So yeah, growing up, even just Birmingham's not too far from here, which I'd say is probably very similar to Manchester in terms of like the diverse and the culture, whereas in South Shields at the time, I think there was maybe 3 mixed race families that lived on the estate. So yeah, it's always been I think a learning curve when you're growing up.
Yeah, what were some of those experiences like that you learnt really early on?
I think that there wasn't very many people that I guess looked like us, and my mum was white, and there's 3 mixed race kids, and then my younger brother Cole's white, and you can see people are going, well, he's white, your mum's white, and yous are mixed, and just things like that. And even just like your hair, like getting your hair done was always a big ordeal. And it's quite funny when I look back, but I think obviously until you become an adult and you become more aware and you ask questions, it's not anything you think of, you just think, oh yeah, I'm living here, and that's it almost. I remember growing up, even just to get my hair braided, it was extortionate, it was expensive, and I would have to wait till the 6 weeks holidays, and my nan would take us all to Birmingham and we'd get it done, and it'd be like a lot cheaper. Remember the Cleopatra girls? I used to love watching that.
It was like braid.
So that was the reason I wanted extensions. So even just things like that, and I think even just seeing people that I think look like you. Obviously, like growing up, you know it's important that you have role models, and it is important to see people very similar to you. So you can be ambitious, and you can, I guess, have hope and think, actually, well, they look like me and I can do that, and they're doing that, so that means I can, do you know what I mean? So I do think that is important. I think obviously the more I've grew up.
It sounds like going to Birmingham, as much as it was about getting your hair done, it was also like seeing other people that looked like you and that little bit of exposure.
Yeah, but even for me, it was still a culture shock, because even when I would go to Birmingham, obviously they've got a high, Jamaican culture there, and my dad's side is Jamaican, and even hearing like Jamaican patois, I'd be thinking, I don't know what you just said. And I'm looking and giving eyeballs and thinking, yeah, just that, like, what they're saying, and just even like that, like being brought up around that. Or I'd go to my Jamaicans, my nan's house, and the food she would cook and stuff. So I loved it, but we would only ever get it if it was in the 6 weeks, because up in South Shields, there just wasn't a lot of Jamaicans, or a lot of culture, I would say, really.
And how did that link into your experience and like coming into football?
I hung out with a lot of boys, and it would become a kickabout, and something I really just loved and enjoyed. And growing up, things weren't great at times, so it was my release, and where I could switch off and I didn't have to worry about anything. So I think that's what got me into it. So I played on an all-girls team, and it was an all-boys league, and I always touch on it, but my first ever game, you know, I got called, you know, racial abuse, and I just was like, what? Like, you know, so, but when you know, the lad, it was on a corner and he said, oh, I'll mark the and I've kind of, you know, looked around and thought, well, that's not me because I'm Jamaican. So even just moving from Birmingham to South Shields, that's what people said up there, and it's wrong. But I remember I just went up to the ref and I said, oh, look, this is what he said, and, you know, he got taken off and stuff. But that was actually my first, I think, experience of like racial abuse, where I was like, oh wow, that was.
And how old were you then?
I'd have been about 7, 8. But even like on the state, you would fight people because, you know, you would experience that daily, or, do you know, I wouldn't want anyone to go through that. But
Yeah.
I just think it's, you know, I'm quite grateful for my journey and the things that I have experienced, because I think if I hadn't, I wouldn't know what I know now.
Every player that we've interviewed for the series, we've always asked them, like, who was that player that really inspired you as a kid? Or were you just, again, just the kid that played outside in the estate and you weren't that inspired by anyone in particular?
There wasn't female teams that I watched, but it would be, you know, I watched Sunderland, I watched Newcastle, so I think it wasn't till I was about 12, Rachel Yankey was who I literally like idolised. I think for my 15th birthday I got an England top, and my nan got Yankee 11 on, and it was an England top. But I remember seeing Rachel Yankey play and I thought, wow, she's good. And that's, you know, she was left wing as well, and I played left wing, so I think that was probably the first time I'd probably seen someone that looked very similar to me, played the same position.
Because this was back in the day when she had those braids as well.
Yeah.
Like oversized kits.
Yeah, and I think that was the first time I was like, wow, I want to be like that, and I want to do what she does. And ever since then, I've just always, you know, looked up to her. And
I guess wearing the Rachel Yankey 11 shirt that your mum got for you, then to your own England shirt, like, how was that feeling when you first got your call up?
yeah, I never really give it too much thought. That was something I was like, oh, I want to do that, and was really driven to do that. I think just grateful that I am in a position to be able to do that, and I think I can only pay that forward to someone else. I feel like I hold a responsibility, because there will be girls that think, actually, well, I look like Demi and I can do the same, and I think that is important.
You'd want everyone to have that equal opportunity. So what do you think like people can do within women's football to give that equal opportunity?
I think like use the players. I think get ideas, you know, like I know Nikita Paris is really big on like the community, and I think that's really important because that's where it starts.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from, and that's where we all started, whether it was in your youth club or you were playing on the estate. I think use that. But at the minute, I think we start from the top and we miss, you know, levels out. So I think if we can start at the bottom, you know, and go into youth clubs and, you know, to inner cities, and, you know, because that's where you will find talent and raw talent. And unfortunately, because someone can't afford to get a lift to training, is where they miss out. Like if I didn't have the help of, you know, Lucy Bronze's mum and Lucy Staniforth's mum and, you know, all the good mum and dads who would take me to football, I might have missed out, or probably would have missed out. So I think it's important to go in that avenue, I think, and scout in the cities and communities, and, you know, because those kids can't always get to training, or they can't, you know, get to places where, you know, there might be tournaments going on, and we're missing a lot of talent out just because of that.
So just like looking ahead and envisioning, like, you know, we're going to have this home Euro, we're going to have like hopefully thousands of fans there, we're going to be at Wembley, and just do you ever get those moments where you just visualise, you know, yourself with the rest of the team, and maybe even like someone like Nikita Paris that we've spoken about, holding that trophy, and what that will mean for so many, you know, young people who are from similar backgrounds to you, seeing that moment?
Yeah, you do, obviously you do visualise, and obviously when you think of tournaments, you think obviously of the trophy and things like that. As a team, we'll do what we can to put ourselves in the best possible position for that. Winning trophies is everything that you dream of being, you know, a footballer. But I think there's bigger pictures, and I think we lose sight of that sometimes. I think, you know, when you lose a game, you come home and you think the world's ended and there's nothing worse that could happen. But actually, there's a bigger picture than yourself, the team. And I think that's the community. I think the community who you represent, the opportunities you're creating for other people, I think that's bigger than football. Therefore visualising and pushing on, that's something you think of, but actually we hold a bigger responsibility, and that's creating opportunities for people with struggles, with less opportunity.
And I guess it's also that element of seeing it to believe it. Like as a young kid, you saw black players growing up playing football, and then hopefully you and other black women in football can do that to other young kids.
Honestly, I think it's so important because, you know, as a kid, you're so inquisitive and you're so intrigued, and I do think what you see is what you become, and what you're around is what you become. It is just so big for kids to see that, because they're very good at visualising, imagination, and, you know, if all's, you know, kids are seeing as the same types of people, we're all going to become one type, and that's not what we want, do you know what I mean? We want everyone to be themselves and embrace who they are and where they've come from.
And I guess finally, on a final note, to hear the sentence, Black, England and proud, do you feel connected to it, and how does it make you feel?
I mean, it's made me smile even just saying that, but I probably, if you asked me when I was younger, I probably would have just been like, oh, well, yeah, I'm black and I'm proud, and do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I think it's important, and it does make me proud, and it makes me proud that actually I'm representing a small number, but, you know, we're working on, you know, pushing the numbers and helping people and giving people opportunity. So I think I can hold great comfort and be proud of that actually I am making a bigger difference than I thought. Because if you had asked me 3 years ago, I would have just said, I'm just Demi, no one's bothered what I'm doing. But actually I hold a great responsibility, and I'm proud that I'm helping.